promised you that we'll come back at 14 hours. We have not done so, and we want to profusely apologize for that. We had to deal with one matter as a committee, so that we don't come and spill it here. So we are very, very sorry for that, and we hope that you will be able to pardon us. We are now going to the second session, where the chairperson is going to allow members to field questions to you, General Timpana. I'm allocating 15 minutes per member. So the time now is 14:32. We are going to start at 14:35. So it means the first speaker will run with you from 14:35 to 14:50.
CFO, Lieutenant General Sbia was here before us. He gave an evidence that Mr. Matlala is well known within SAPS as a service provider. Do you know Mr. Matlala?
No, I do not know Mr. Matlala.
You have never heard of him?
I've never heard of him, safe to say that I've seen him on TV or on newspapers. I've never seen papers. I've never seen him. I do not know Mr. Matlala.
Mr. Matlala, that was cancelled.
Yes.
No payment was done for it.
There were payments that were done prior to cancellation. During May, all payments were stopped after cancellation.
How do you pay? You simply pay because documents have been produced, or you have to see the work that has been done, or because documents are put in your office, you pay?
The SAPS has a national policy that regulates the payment of service providers in SAPS. Procurement takes place at a police station, district, province, as well as at national. So there is a brilliant policy that regulates payment of service providers. It outlines the role of each and every individual within the value chain. From those that would have sourced the services, in this instance, the people who would have sourced the services of Medicare would be HRM. We refer to them as end users. So when they are satisfied that services were rendered, they are happy, they receive these invoices, they then upload these invoices on the system, and then the process unfolds in terms of the stages that are outlined on the policy. We then come in as national finance at the end of the value chain, where we then release the payments to the service provider. So it is a tried and tested policy. It has sufficient safeguards. The issue would be when members that have secured services or goods from service providers engage themselves in unethical conduct or unethical behavior where they would have certified services that they did not receive. That would be the issue. But we can assure the committee that the policy that regulates the payment of service providers in SAPS is a policy that has sufficient safeguards and the system has safeguards. So these invoices would have been authorized and accepted and certified.
Mr. Matlala has a complaint with that project of Medicare 24. Then he goes to Lieutenant General Sibia when he was acting to lodge a complaint. Do you think that was a correct procedure?
I was not even aware in this particular regard. Naturally, service providers are dealt with by supply chain management. If they have issues, then supply chain management through the leadership of General Fund would be the best people to sort out those particular issues, should a service provider have issues in this regard. So I've heard through evidence that he subsequently approached
the reporting structure of SAPS, whereby the divisional commissioner on SCM to report directly now to the CFO. But that thing has not happened. What do you think that informed that decision to be undertaken?
May I get clarity, Chair? Which decision, the decision to amend the reporting lines of supply chain management?
Yes, the reporting lines of supply chain management, whereby now they will report to you. It was not done before.
I believe these are the efforts that the leadership of the department are trying to do to strengthen governance issues, including the supply chain management processes, so that then at least I have an overview and a grip in terms of the area of supply chain management. It has an impact on the reporting of the department. It has an impact, and the work is closely related to the work that I do. So I believe these are the efforts that the department is putting in place to ensure that there is strengthened capacity in that particular regard, and you do not have some. It was then decided that it is best that these particular functions are separated. I must just indicate that when I came in 2019, they were combined, and then decisions were taken by the leadership that let us rather separate because of the work that supply chain management continues to do, and the weight of the work that I do as a CFO. So from time to time, the leadership will review their decisions and look at the areas of weakness and try to close those gaps and strengthen this particular issue so that there is proper accountability.
Don't you think that reporting line that was there before, it has an impact in you not being effective in the financial management? Molefe is the surname, Molefe is the surname, is the other way around. When he was here, we're saying that even when we're saying that the crime rate is very high, it is because the procurement also of the vehicle are centered in one place. Hence, I'm asking this question now. We have SAPS with this 406 million for 2024-2025 financial year of irregular expenditure that has occurred under your leadership. Don't you think having those reporting lines whereby the CFO, you look at the tail end of the SCM, not dealing with the SCM wholeheartedly. Don't you think it's also the reason? It's not.
It is not.
I'm trying to protect you.
It is not, Chair. You will note on the summary that we have tried to also give information to the committee in terms of cost centers. As I indicated, procurement takes place all over in the country, from a police station to head office in this particular regard. There are people who are appointed specifically to deal with this at all those structures. There are policies that indicate who must do what and what is it that we must comply to. So you will find, Chair, that some of the matters might be deliberate non-compliance. So people are not complying to the rules while the policies are there, while the rules are there to say for you to be able to procure through quotations, you must do A, B, C, D. And people go out of their way not to deal with such issues. I must indicate that there are systems in place. Supply chain management does go out to provinces and conduct awareness sessions. We do speak to officials in terms of what is expected. I have recently even circulated through the Internal Control Department a circular that talks about all the aspects that needs to be complied with. We have shared in the organization so that then the officials who are entrusted with the duties and responsibilities of procurement are then aware and in terms of what is it that they need to comply with. So they know. The problem in SAPS in terms of irregular expenditure, I think, is the issue of accountability. If we can strengthen that particular issues, because procurement happens all over in police stations, if we can strengthen accountability and each and every manager ensures that they do their work in the account in terms of Section 45 of the Public Finance Management Act, which says every manager, whether you are a financial manager or not, when you are allocated resources, you have got a duty to ensure that you account for those resources. So I think the organization as a whole, we struggle with issues of accountability from all angles in terms of the managers and end users who would have been given resources to utilize, who would have been given or delegated powers to ensure that there is procurement within their spaces for them to be able to do their work. So, Chair, I believe that this strengthening, the leadership had in their mind that this will strengthen these processes and will then reduce the challenges that we have. But head office supply chain management has been on the ground in provinces. As soon as these particular issues are picked up, then there is a post-audit action plan. We analyze the root causes in terms of this non-compliance, and we educate, and we also develop those that are working within the supply chain management space. Each and every division has a supply chain management group that is appointed to deal with procurement management, each and every province in this particular regard. So I believe that this is a collective responsibility from all managers who are in SAPS to ensure that then when this procurement takes place, it takes place within the confines of the rules that govern supply chain management.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Dimpane. Thank you. Before I'm being cut off.
Yeah, General Dimpane, stop speaking. May we please go to the next speaker? Is it you, Honorable Ntuli, Honorable Ngola, Honorable Sangoni, who is the next speaker?
No, thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon once again.
The time expires at 5 minutes after 3.
Good afternoon again to the General, Lieutenant General Dimpane. No, I just want to make a follow-up on the question that my colleague has raised. With regard to your role as a CFO in combating, on one hand, but equally in taking actions that makes it easier for the institution to avoid a situation of a huge irregular expenditure as we are confronted with at SAPS. Towards the end of your statement, I think it's paragraph 32, you are making references to the fact that you are saying there in that paragraph, I remain committed to my duties as a CFO of SAPS, ensuring financial integrity, transparency and accountability. My actions concerning the irregular expenditure were proactive. I want to stop there. What is your understanding of the word proactive? What does it mean?
So, as I indicated, the bulk of this irregular expenditure would have been as a result of the bids that were awarded, and these are the functions that are performed at head office and by the BAC. So as soon as such indications are put, or assurance providers would have picked these particular issues, I proactively approach and assist the accounting officer to then conduct these determination exercises, and also to ensure that there are proper internal investigations so that we can hold the relevant people into account. Over and above that, I also coordinate all the post-audit action plans after the audit has been concluded, where I then have a steering committee that includes everyone, including supply chain management, where we monitor that all the findings that had been put on the table, whether by external auditors or internal auditors, are rectified, and there is strengthening of internal controls. So we will interrogate the root causes of this non-compliance and make suggestions in terms of improvement of internal controls. I also participate in the risk management committees, where we will then monitor these risks. Some of these risks you will find, they find expression, in particular irregular expenditure, it finds expression on the risk register that will highlight the fraud risks as well as the ethical risks. So those are the areas that we then monitor and call managers to account in terms of the lapses in internal controls. Over and above that, we then support initiatives in terms of education, in terms of ensuring that there's capacity for our members to be able to do their work properly when they handle the matters of procurement in the organization.
No, thanks, CFO. I take it that you are very much familiar with what the PFMA says, with reference in particular to what is called in the PFMA, there's a section that I'm looking for, but let me frame my question while I'm identifying it. Because the way you are explaining proactiveness, it appears to me, and you will tell me if my interpretation is wrong, that all your interventions were only initiated in response to a crisis, from what I'm understanding you to be saying. And I can see you are nodding negatively, means I didn't get you right. Because my reading of what you are saying, even as you were presenting it now verbally, you are making a lot of references to what you have acted to do or you have sought to do as a consequence of negative findings that were made. So maybe if you can explain a bit the aspect of you being proactive and the extent to which your proactiveness has actually helped you to produce the desired outcomes. And maybe make examples of how those outcomes would have otherwise been negative if it was not as a result of your own actions.
Our proactiveness would be a lot of interventions. I spoke about risk management, where we monitor risks such as fraud indicators as a result of non-compliance to procurement rules. We then strengthen and identify whether our internal controls are adequate as well as effective. Where we find gaps, we then make recommendations in terms of closing those particular gaps. Chair, you will note that there is a divisional commissioner responsible for supply chain management, so we work closely with the Office of Supply Chain Management to ensure that where there are internal control gaps, that puts the organization at a risk of non-compliance and ultimately incurring an unwanted expenditure. those internal controls are strengthened through the work that we do within internal control, through the work that we do with the oversight structures, as well as ensuring that our members are well trained in this particular area. So we do work closely with supply chain management, and we support all the initiatives in this regard. The issues of the tenders, what we have also done, having picked up that this is a vulnerable area that exposes the department to reputational damage, we have also approached the National Commissioner in terms of strengthening the work that is done by the issues of surrounding the bids in this particular regard. So we have made a number of recommendations. We are supporting the issues of probity audits that have been introduced to ensure that before those tenders are awarded, then there is another layer of quality assessment. I do not serve in the BAC, Chair, so some of these particular processes would have arisen as a result of the work that would have been done by the BAC. Then the reactive part kicks in, where one supports the accounting officer to ensure that relevant investigations are done and relevant reporting is done accurately in this regard.
Thank you. And then when the tender was cancelled, and given the fact that the service provider was meant to provide services which are a necessity for the institution, now the tender got cancelled because of all that we now know. Who provides the services now?
There is a process underway that is led by the end user. They are trying to establish an alternative procurement vehicles. I have learned that that process has kick-started. The process is currently undergoing probity audit to ensure that we avoid a similar scandal in this regard. So the end user is leading that particular process, assisted by supply chain management and the probity auditing the entire process to ensure that when that process is, the outcome is finalized, there are no irregularities. So that process is currently unfolding, but it's led by the end user, which is human resource management.
What's the nature of that process? What's the nature of it?
In terms of the procurement vehicle?
Oh, yeah, what exactly?
I believe they are currently embarking on a quotation process, and they have also requested, parallel to that, supply chain management to ensure that a long-term tender process is then put in place to ensure that we have these services and we are able to do our work. But it is led.
Are you confident that that process will not result in another wasteful expenditure?
It should not, Chair. It should not. Like I indicated, all the steps that the accounting officer has put in place, the introduction of the probity audit prior to award, the strengthened activities of the BAC, it should not. If it can have irregularities, then it will then mean we are dealing with something else. So all the steps and the processes that have been put in place and strengthened through the leadership of the accounting officer should make us not to have a similar repeat of this nature of irregularities.
Thank you. When Advocate Zigalala was leading you on the evidence, you gave an indication of the number of meetings that were convened in which you had to make a presentation for the minister about, I'm sure you recall that. Now I want to draw your attention to paragraph 19 of your statement, and I'm going to ask us to look at that paragraph as well as the first sentence of paragraph 20. So paragraph 19 says, all 5 of the mentioned presentations dealt with the budget framework, overall challenges and pressure points in the organization. I want to stop there on that one. Then on paragraph 20, I'm just taking one sentence. I've never spoken to the minister about the PKTT budget. Now, what I want to understand, you will forgive me, I'm not trained in finance. So what I want to understand is, how does it happen that a CFO can explain through a presentation budget framework, overall challenges, and pressure points without making references to what give rise to pressure points?
The The presentations that we would have made to the executive authority would be dealing with matters at I would say a macro level or a strategic level. The issues of the task teams and interventions are operational issues that are normally dealt with by the relevant managers at operational level with the National Commission. So it is not a natural that you will have an operational matter in a presentation of that level. So we would orientate the minister in terms of the structure of the budget, the priorities, the alignment to the priorities, issues of the APP, and issues of scarcity or challenges, fiscal challenges, and the support that one would require. So the PKTT budget would be at the level where I discuss those issues with the National Commission as and when various applications are made. So I have made available the presentations just to indicate the orientation that we had made. We would explain in terms of how do we then apportion this, is our apportionment methodology fair, and what is the level of resourcing at head office versus the level of resourcing at local level, because you need resources at local level. So those would be strategic decisions or discussions that we carry out in those particular presentations.
Okay. My last question, Chair. On the, again on your statement, Lieutenant General, is paragraph 25, and I'm going to the sentence before the last one on paragraph 25. The one that begins by saying, I also wish to state clearly that I have not given anyone permission to access this submission, nor to utilize it in their own defense. Who are you talking about?
I think I heard it more being emphasized during the testimony of General Sibia, as well as I have seen it attached, I believe, in the defense of the minister as well. So I was not aware that such a document will be utilized in their defense.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Lieutenant General.
Thank you so much, Chief Whip. Who is the next speaker? Honorable Nomval.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon,
At
General.
20 past 3, at 20 past 3, you stop speaking.
Okay.
General.
No, I will comply, Chair, that I can promise. In fact, today you will give me a standing ovation. How are you, General? Are you okay?
I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the total amount that was paid for the Medicare contract is 48 million.
It was 48 million.
Correct, okay. Now, the SCM boss in SAPS, when he was here last week, we had an argument with him because he was so convinced that even though the expenditure hereof was irregular, but there was value for money. And my argument to him was that there was no value for money because in his statement, he said the contract or the service provider underperformed. That's what he said. And he said that the contract was terminated even before the underperformance was corrected. So what is your take on that?
The issues of the performance of the contract would have been dealt with by the end user working together with supply chain management. And I heard him explaining the definition of irregular expenditure to say it is expenditure that is incurred in contravention to prescripts that relates to supply chain management. However, the service was rendered. So the issue of value for money, for me, as I indicated, those that would have requested these services, thereafter they receive invoices, they certify to say we have received services and we are happy with these services. And they load invoices on the system for payment. For me, the reason why we are pushing for this forensic investigation is to probe exactly this. To say, on the other hand, there is an indication to say there were matters that were reported to the supply chain boss, and they were dealt with. On the other hand, the end user is certified that they are satisfied with the work that was done by this one. So there's a bit of a contradiction. So we want the investigation to then unearth these particular gaps and tell us what exactly happened in this particular regard. So that is why we are pushing for this, because it will tell us exactly to say, is the end user or did the end user certify things that they were not supposed to certify? Did anyone engage themselves in unethical conduct or the elements of fraud where they would have certified things where work was not done? So this investigation must give us that, and we need to deal with this without any fear or favor to ensure that this serves as a deterrent and we never get to this point again.
So a determination will be made by the report of the investigation.
The forensic investigation will tell us
Will make a
where
determination.
services indeed rendered and where those services services that we could actually say this was value for money.
Okay.
If people certified things and work was not done properly, then it means those people engage themselves in unethical conduct and they ought to be dealt with.
So if I get you correctly, you are saying at this stage you can't make that determination.
I can't make that determination.
Okay. On page 4, paragraph 10, you are making an indication that there's a new organizational structure which makes some amendments in the current structure. But specifically, this organizational structure makes the SCM to directly report to the CFO, to the CFO's office. And I think you went further to say it has not been implemented as yet. Now, do you find this, does this accord with rationality? Shouldn't the SCM unit be a distinct unit? Is it not going to overburden the CFO when you integrate the SCM unit into their office, into the office of the CFO? Are we not supposed to separate powers and the functions of the CFO and the SCM?
It will be a lot of work. As I indicated, SAPS is a huge institution. We have a big asset base. We have got issues that we need to deal with from a financial point of view. It will be a lot of work. I think the implementation in terms of this particular structure differs from department to department. In small departments, you will find supply chain management reporting to the CFO because it will not make any, it's not rational that supply chain is separate in a department that is deemed to be small. In a department as huge as SAPS, that was the rationale why it was split in the first place. But I believe the leadership have got a reason why this decision was taken in this particular regard. But it will be a lot of work. It will require all the hands on deck to ensure that we work together and we ensure that we uphold the law in terms of ensuring that people comply to supply chain prescriptions, but it will be a lot of work.
Yeah, because my view, my honest view is that this is not an ideal mechanism. If anything, it will overburden the CFO. I'm asking that because this committee has a responsibility to make recommendations on policy reforms. So you can lobby us if you are saying, based on experience, this is not going to help the situation. If anything, it will exacerbate problems that are intrinsic in the operations of SAPS. So I just wanted to give you that leeway or that liberty, but we are not making use of it. So tell me, do you have, is there a committee in SAPS called irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure committee?
I'm responsible for the fruitless and wasteful expenditure register. I'm the custodian. So I do have a committee, a very vibrant committee that meets from time to time to ensure that we are on top of the situation. You will note that fruitless and wasteful expenditure has actually declined in this regard. We have made a lot of work. On the other hand, the
Yeah.
irregular expenditure register is the custodian of supply chain management. When I came in 2019, I established that particular committee, and that particular committee is supposed to be a function, but I cannot confirm or vouch for its effectiveness at this point in time. We have since requested supply chain management to revive that committee and ensure that that committee is effective and it's able to assist us. However, supply chain management head office is present. They do go to provinces. They do assist in terms of these transactions that are there to ensure that where there is uncertainty at the cost center, they are then able to can guide those particular cost centers. So it was two different committees. We do have the fruitless and wasteful expenditure one that is within the space, and the irregular expenditure one that is within the supply chain management space.
Yeah, no, thank you for that comprehensive report. You know what, the approach in this conversation that we're having is that I'm trying to test all the amendments which have been put before this committee in relation to matters which are financially, which relate to finance in SAPS. Now, there is an issue here about the blue light contract in Gauteng of irregular expenditure. Have you ever come across any finding of irregular expenditure with regards to that contract? Blue lights in Gauteng, if you know it.
I think those were investigations that took place prior to my arrival in head office. I have heard about those investigations and I've heard about the outcomes and the irregularities in terms of those. But those would be investigations that would have commenced for my arrival in Gauteng.
No, I'm saying during your tenure, have you ever dealt with a matter similar to that? Maybe to give you a hint, I think that matter was part of the reasons for the suspension of the former acting National Commissioner, General Patlane. Have you ever come, during your tenure, have you ever come across that kind of a situation?
I've heard about it. As I indicated, when I arrived, those processes were at the tail end. When I arrived in head office, they were at the tail end. And when I arrived, it was General Stoll who was the National Commissioner. And I'm aware that those processes were reaching the tail, were at the tail end in this regard.
You know, one thing as I'm landing and as I'm concluding, that I can commend in your statement, which is very commendable, is that you are not waffling and rambling. You are just dealing with issues which are related to your responsibility. And for that, you have made the work of this committee to be very easy. We are not dealing with a person who's all over the place talking about things she doesn't know anything about. So that's my compliment to you. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Are you done, Honorable Nomvalo?
Please give me a standing ovation, Chair.
Are you done? Are you done?
Please stand up for me.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done. I'm donating to Honorable Skosana.
I'm going to thank you at the end. Who is next?
Honorable Skosi.
Honorable Skosana, your time ends at 15:30.
But I don't think you had the honorable number.
No, I'm saying your time ends at 15:30.
Yeah, but
The honorable member made a commitment even before he could say a letter
your
that
benevolent,
he will not finish the
your
time.
benevolent ended in Cape Town. Anyway,
Your time expires at 15:30.
thank you, Chair. Thank you, Lieutenant General. My first question to you will be, it's amazing that you are a chief financial officer, but you don't sit on a bid adjudication committee. Why?
The circular from National Treasury says the bid adjudication committee may be chaired by the CFO. It doesn't say must. As I indicated, with the structure within the organization, you have supply chain management that is separate with its own divisional commissioner and a CFO that is separate. So that is a structural decision by the organization to say, because supply chain has its own divisional commissioner, the divisional commissioner will chair. So the rules from Treasury indicates that it may. So I believe it leaves room for discretion in terms of a department.
So I'll be wrong to ask you why tenders, like for instance, the one current, the parts, which has been going on for some time, which is all parts, if I remember. There was an AutoZone before who religiously have a tender for over a decade. As we speak here, I think that tender has expired as well. And why so? Why the deadlines? You know, I know that there's that 180 days extension, but why? Why? Because you know that the tender on this particular day is going to end. You have to advertise it early, but you leave it until late. Hence, there's the so-called the capture in this government departments.
There are processes in place, Chairperson, that are regulated by, I believe, during the era of General Sithole, there was a contract management strategy that was put in place and a contract management committee. And supply chain management have a system in place where they will notify the end user 12 months before the expiry of that contract to say, end user, this contract is coming to an end. What are you going to do about it? It's end users who do not do, their inefficiencies, they make the system to be inefficient. So supply chain management does in writing, and I've seen them informing the end users to say, your procurement vehicle in terms of this particular tender is coming to an end. We want feedback from you in terms of the way forward. It's just inefficiencies in the system. So there are processes in place to pick up those, and supply chain management is monitoring those particular issues.
Do you agree that there's you need to improve on that?
We need to. There are inefficiencies, whether deliberate or not, those are the issues. But there needs to be an improvement in that area.
No, there is inefficiency on that.
Yes.
I can guarantee you if we agree to each other on that one. And do you participate in or anyway chair the SAPS committee on irregular and wasteful expenditure?
No, Chair.
What are the roles and responsibility of the wasteful irregular expenditure committee, the current one?
As I indicated, Chair, that we have separated these committees. There is a fruitless and wasteful expenditure committee that it has been managed within my environment, and irregular expenditure is managed within a general finance environment. As I indicated, in 2019 when I came, I established that particular committee. And I cannot vouch for its effectiveness at this point in time. However, we have spoken to supply chain management to say, those are some of the structures that we must not allow them to collapse or die, because they assist us to ensure that then we have an extra eye and we monitor and hold people to account in this regard.
So you say you can't vouch for
I do not chair the irregular expenditure.
No, what I'm saying, you said you established that.
Yes.
But you cannot vouch for.
I established it when supply chain was still my responsibility. Remember when I came in 2019, supply chain and finance were together, and then the structure separated them. So since then I was not responsible for supply chain management. I cannot vouch for its effectiveness. If it was effective, I would have to be part of it, but there's not been meetings that I'm aware of that has taken place in terms of that committee. However, we have recruited supply chain management to ensure that we don't allow processes and internal controls to have gaps unnecessarily. So that is an area that must be improved in this regard, Chair.
Thank you. Lieutenant General, as you know that we have limited times, and I understand that some of my questions will just thrown out of the window. But let me ask you, what were the findings in relating to the Gauteng blue light contract?
Chair, as I indicated, when I came in to take over as head office, those investigations were concluded in this regard. People were undergoing those processes in terms of discipline and so on and so on. So I am not more conversant in terms of the actual findings that were made through those investigations, because when I came in 2019, those processes were concluded. However, some of those contracts were deemed to be irregular and they were reported as such.
So in terms of the processes, you were not involved in awarding of that blue?
I was still in the province.
In the province?
Yes.
Which province? Free State?
Free State.
Yes. Who signed the blue light contracts? I think by now you know, because as a CFO, when this matter was raised and this matter is in court and people were arrested, obviously you have the knowledge.
I would believe that it would be the then chairperson of the BAC, whoever was the chairperson of the BAC, because in terms of the delegations as outlined by General Fani, the chairperson of SAPS, the chairperson of the BAC is then delegated the powers to then sign these contracts on behalf of the accounting officer.
So let me put it to you. So it would be wrong for anyone to blame the acting then National Co-Commissioner General Patlana.
When you read section 4 of the Public Finance Management that talks about delegation of authority, it says the accounting officer has got specific responsibilities, but he can delegate those responsibilities. However, it does not divest the accounting officer from responsibility as a result of the conducting of the work of those that he would have delegated this. So the accounting officer remains accountable in terms of his or her roles as outlined in PFMA. So when you delegate, it does not divest you from responsibilities of those that would have been doing the work on your behalf.
So it was not for Gauteng, then I think the provincial commissioner was Dilang, if I remember well.
Sorry, Chair?
What I'm asking is that the responsibility lies then with the provincial co-commissioner, or, as you said, it lies with the national commissioner as an accounting officer.
The accounting officer takes the ultimate accountability. And then he has the responsibility to ensure that those that are responsible for those lapses are held to account.
But if I may ask, like you as a CFO, you must take responsibility as well in matters relating to finances of South African Police Service, am I right?
If I'm found to have erred
No, I'm asking, is that like you, the responsibility, it's your responsibility to make sure that the finances of SAPS are above a reproach.
Yes.
Now, have then, in your knowledge, the acting national commissioner signed that contract?
I cannot comment on that. I have not seen who has signed the contract. Hence I said, since I started, I have learned that the structure in SAPS allows for the national commissioner to delegate those responsibilities to the BAC chairperson. So I have not seen it with my eyes in terms of who exactly signed that particular contract.
So in your view, let me put it to you, or if I may ask, if he has not signed that contract, should he be responsible for that contract?
I would repeat, if he had delegated functions to a specific group of people to execute responsibilities on his behalf, the ultimate accountability rests with him. It would then be incumbent upon him to deal with those that would have failed in the execution of those delegated responsibilities.
So in other words, for him to be fired, you say it was correct in your view?
I am not saying that.
No, I'm just asking.
I'm not saying that.
I'm
not privy to the aspects that were taken into account during his processes that were dealt with.
Yeah, but if it was only fired for that, what's your view on that?
I'm not aware in terms of what was taken into account to come.
No, I'm saying if he was fired for that, what's your view on that?
Chair, I don't think I have a view, because I am not privy to the reasons that were on the table in terms of his release. Did
SAPS have value for that contract in your view? Or you had no interest at all to know exactly what happened?
Which contract, Chair?
The blue light contract.
Chair, I am repeating that that particular investigation was concluded while I was still in the province. And those processes of investigations and consequence management were unfolding and were at the tail end when I arrived. So it is a matter that I have not set aside time to interrogate because we then allowed those processes to then take their own course. So when I came in 2019, I then dealt with other processes, a matter that I have not set time aside to interrogate.
Yeah, I understand you distance yourself completely, but you've been long in the SAPS as CFO. And when all these matters went to court, obviously, I mean, as a CFO, the interest of knowing exactly what happened. But let me ask you, as a Chief Financial Officer, are you playing any role in coordinating the work of the Audit General with SAPS?
Yes.
If so, what's your role?
I play the biggest role in terms of coordinating all audit activities, including the Office of the Auditor General. I am the nodal point for SAPS to ensure that the audit activities run smoothly, from the engagement letter to the audit strategy to coordinating all stakeholders in the SAPS to ensure that we cooperate with the assurance providers, as well as ensuring that there is effectiveness of the running of the audit committee of SAPS.
You know, because today the chair was not giving us enough time, you know, but let's continue. You know, there is a specific material irregularities relating to a 24 million payment to a supplier of breaching the contract. Can you provide, do you know about that?
I am aware of that matter.
What led to that material irregularity?
As I indicated when I came in, those were the investigations that were dealt with. I have learned that it was an issue where SAPS would have awarded a contract but failed to participate in that particular contract, and the service provider took SAPS to court, and the issue of breach of contract was put on the table.
So which might lead to an irregular expenditure again, or?
It was a breach of contract, the 24 million, as a result of SAPS not having utilized that particular contract. We had raised, I believe there was an amount that we raised as fruitless expenditure out of this entire process as well.
Now, you know, there was this so-called Operation Vula, Umkoti, which were not used to solve crime, in my view, but was to rescue the Zamazamas, who illegally ventured into those abandoned mines. And the kingpins of those abandoned mines are still not being arrested as we speak. Do you agree with me on that?
The operational environment will be best suited to respond to the issues of kingpins and who has been arrested in this regard.
Yeah, but CFO, remember, in terms of the expenditure and the budget of SAPS, you are responsible for it. To help the national, as you said, the accounting officer. You can't distance yourself from everything. That it's not your responsibility. You don't know about anything. It can't be. But let me put it to you. Remember, people were complaining about the budget of the PKTT. What's your take on that? Because for me, of what I'm seeing, the 436 million or 438 million is value for money, as compared to what I'm talking about now, the Zamazama issue. That the Zamazama issue, the issue was not to arrest those people who are committing crime. It was more about saving the illegal people. And the kingpins, as I said earlier, as you say, it's not your responsibility. That whether they are arrested or not, you don't know. But I'm putting it to you that they are not. So from where I'm sitting, when there's an additional amount which the PKTT, which has successes, which makes sense, that it has to be funded, whether it goes all over the province is another debate. But I must say to you now that as well, I think collectively so, you have to take responsibility on other matters to improve the integrity of SAPS. Do you agree with me on that one?
We have funded the PKTT, as I indicated.
May you please stop speaking, Lieutenant Timpan. It's now 15:30. Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you.
We use one watch in this meeting. The only correct watch in this meeting is the watch of the chairperson.
For a month.
No. The other horloses have lost time. May we please take Honorable Malem.
Chair, there is another watch on the wall there.
Yeah,
for all to see.
those watches, forget them. Allow the watch of the chair to reign. Can we then take, is it you, Honorable Breitenbach, or Honorable Cameron?
I'm donating my time to Honourable Cameron.
Okay. So Honorable Cameron is now 15:30. You run until 16 hours if she donates her time to you. So it means only one person will speak. Yes. 15 minutes plus 15 minutes is 30 minutes. Your time has started. That caucus must disband there.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, General. We've got a very strict chair today. General, just to get context, according to the new SAPS organizational structure, supply chain management now appears to fall under financial management services. Can you confirm whether SEM now reports directly to you as CFO, and what level this reporting line has been, what level has it been formalized?
Yes, I indicated, Chair, on paragraph 10 that since May this year, a new organizational structure has been approved, and this amends the reporting lines of the division supply chain management directly to the CFO. This is my understanding that this particular organizational structure had to follow restructuring processes. There needed to be restructuring processes where all the relevant stakeholders will sit and then deal with this particular restructuring processes. I have not seen any real implementation to this end. Even for this year, I have signed a performance agreement with the National Commissioner that only has my responsibility. So I believe conversations and preparations in terms of full implementation of the structure are continuing, and then as soon as everything is finalized, then one will then embark on that particular process. But for this year, my performance agreement only has financial management responsibilities.
Thanks, General. General, in terms of the Divisional Commissioner for SEM, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, would he then fall under your governance authority, or do they, and now this is after implementation, as you understand it, does SEM continue to operate with semi-autonomous discretion despite the restructuring?
We have asked those questions because myself and Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi are the same rank. I have asked those questions precisely for purposes of dealing with issues that talks to performance management. Naturally, in a department, the same rank cannot report to another rank. So those are the issues that must still be outlined and sorted out by the Human Resource Department as well as OD. I've written to them to say, explain to me, how do we then implement this if Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi is still there and myself and Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi are the same rank? How do we then deal with issues of performance management? Who signs performance agreement against who? Because other various policies in the organization will then talk about the divisional commissioner must do X. Now, if General Mkhwanazi is there, is the divisional commissioner, and he reports to me, and we are the same rank, how do we then deal with the aspects of such other policies in this regard? So I've written to legal, I've written to OD, I've written to HR, because I need clarity. So that then when we implement this, we implement it and there are no legal comebacks and issues and grievances that will come. So I await with anticipation to get proper guidance in terms of those structures that are responsible for this. What do we do? Because myself and Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi are on the same level.
Thanks, General. General, for the past decade, especially when you look at fruitless and wasteful expenditure or irregular expenditure, SEM operated as an autonomous, I'd like to call it a fiefdom, functioning parallel to PFMA controls. What concrete preventative measures have you introduced to stop SEM from bypassing internal audit? As we've seen with the findings regarding the Tembisa or the Medicare contract specifically, it was very clear that there were significant bypasses. And apart from bypassing internal audit also include legal services, risk management, and even your own financial controls.
This entire accountability ecosystem must function. It must work together. Hence, I indicated that we also see this when you look at the fraud and risk, fraud risk indicators, ethics risk indicators, that you then begin to understand that we have problems in the organization. So we bring all this accountability ecosystem together. We have conversations with the National Commissioner, hence we have, working together with the Chief Risk Officer, put a proposal to the National Commissioner in terms of strengthening internal control system. And we have implemented or are implementing, though not fully, internal control unit within my space. And this is a unit that then monitors the issues of compliance, intervenes where there's a need to intervene in this regard. So we do work together. There are controls in place, Chair, in SAPS. The issue is override by people and lack of consequence management, direct consequence management and accountability. So if we can sort out those issues and lead, and there's a tone at the top to say some of the things we are not supposed to tolerate as the SAPS leadership, I believe we will be able to deal with these particular issues. So we do work well with supply chain management. There are various forums. There's combined assurance forums. There is probity audits that the National Commissioner has introduced. We are supporting those processes to ensure that then we are able to can be proactive to pick up where there are gaps in the internal controls and we close those particular gaps. We do have a very effective risk management committee as well as audit committee. They keep us on our toes in terms of ensuring that we account for our actions in this regard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, General. General, at the moment, and this is what we heard from the Auditor General just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, SAPS currently has almost 2.5 billion in investigated irregular expenditure, uninvestigated irregular expenditure, that has not been escalated to the relevant authority for finalization. Why has this not occurred? And what is what timeline do you see or would you commit for to close these matters?
As I explained before, the history of this 2.4 billion that is lying on Part E of our annual report. If I'm correct, there's about 275 transactions lying there. The National Commissioner has instructed supply chain management to unpack and allocate these transactions to everyone, so that then there is accountability. There has been efforts, Chair, where around 111 transactions were submitted to National Treasury as the condoning authority. Upon interrogation, it may appear that National Treasury returned some of those transactions because of other information that was missing. So if you send to the condoning authority, you need to ensure that there is compliance in terms of the National Treasury framework. You should have investigated, there should have been discipline, you should have confirmed that there was no fraud, there was no corruption and all those things, and there was value for money. So when we interrogate with supply chain management, what exactly is the hold-up? Because there is a bit of a slow process in dealing with this. They indicate that about 111 of such transactions were submitted to the condoning authority, and some of them, around 73, were returned because the National Treasury could not confirm the issues surrounding value for money. So subsequently, we have then requested the National Commissioner to delegate me in a writing so that I can support supply chain management. During September, we have had a very progressive meeting with National Treasury. There is a team there that is willing to support us. They've given us directions and guidance in terms of how to deal with this. However, the ones that would have been returned by National Treasury without condonement, this delegation then gives me the authority, gives the accounting officer the authority to remove these transactions from the books. However, it is not just going to be a removal. You need to ensure that there's compliance in terms of paragraph 5.6 of the National Treasury framework, where there is a confirmation that indeed value was achieved, services were rendered, there was no fraud, the department did not suffer losses, and the relevant person who caused this irregular expenditure was held to account. So we have started that process. To this end, by Friday, the first 50 files are coming to me to sit with supply chain management to ensure that then we embark on this process. If we can deal with this 111, there are others that are already en route, others are with National Treasury to then deal with this condonement. Once they are condoned, then you are able to remove them from the register. Of the 2.4 billion, There is about 4 transactions that constitute 64% that are lying there. One has been condoned by National Treasury, therefore it will be removed. There's 2 that has been submitted to National Treasury. We are awaiting a response in this regard. I think there is another one, the RT 69. That is a contract, that is a transversal contract that the department had committed and that they are participating in, and then ultimately they withdrew without following the rules and so on, and we declared that particular action irregular. 7 million, if my memory serves me right. The National Commission has appointed an investigator to deal with the discipline part. And I suspect that by now that investigator should be done so that then we can unpack in terms of the disciplinary investigation who must be held accountable in this regard. So once we then deal with this 237 of RT 69, then we would have dealt with the bulk of this. So the 4 transactions that constitutes 64% is actually 1.9 billion. If we can deal with this 4, we will see a movement in this, but we acknowledge the support that National Treasury is assisting us with. The team of General Fani is continuously engaging with National Treasury to ensure that then they assist us with those that we have submitted. I will be dealing with the ones that went to Treasury and Treasury did not condone them. So I will need to ensure that I support the accounting officer to deal with these things and we clean this part E that is lying on our annual report.
Okay, General, 1 or 2 more questions. Just in terms of this word accountability, when it comes to SAM specifically, and I keep referring to that because out of the 6 of the material irregularities found by the Auditor General, I think 4 of them were under SAM, if I'm not mistaken. Would you support the Auditor General issuing a certificate of debt against the Divisional Commissioner of Supply Chain?
Since the Audit Amendment Act, the Auditor General has raised 5 material irregularities in the department. The process allows the accounting officer to put actions, their recommendations. The process allows the accounting officer to put action and to give feedback to the Auditor General. We are coordinating and supporting the accounting officer to give that feedback. I believe out of the 5, the accounting officer has up to so far been able to give sufficient feedback, of which Auditor General has been satisfied with such feedback. To this end, 1 material irregularity has been resolved. We are left with 4. Of the 4 that are left with, the accounting officer is required by AGSA to provide continuous feedback. They assess it, they give us feedback. Up to so far, they have been satisfied with the feedback that the accounting officer has given, and the 4 will then be monitored or followed up in the next new audit cycle in this regard. It is an area that we take seriously. We support the accounting officer and we ensure that those actions that were recommended by the AGSA to the accounting officer are implemented and implemented to the latter. In the event the accounting officer fails to implement those recommendations and there is no cooperation, the Audit Act empowers the AGSA then to issue the certificate of debt to the accounting officer. Up to so far, we have not arrived at that point where the accounting officer is not cooperating. He is cooperating, of course, with the support of all of us.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Chair. No more questions.
Honorable Cameron, have you asked all the questions you had on your list? Okay. Honorable Malema, your time starts now. It ends at 16 hours. Honorable Matthys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Lieutenant General. There's been 11 task teams. Well, as of now, there's 11 task teams. Have any of these task teams have had their financials audited, like as a task team rather than part of the bigger SAPS audit?
The allocation of these funds, as I indicated earlier this morning, is allocated to the National Operational Center, which is a unit within Program 2. So when Program 2 is audited, all expenses...
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you because I have a little time, right? Just individually, so if we go to the PKTT, is there a financial, has there ever been just an audited statement done by the AG for each of them? No. It's part of the bigger programs?
No, yeah.
Okay. Can you, as the CFO, do you have the mandate to request or have those individual budgets that have been allocated to these task teams or to any particular program audited independently by the AG in particular?
I can request, we do have a very effective internal audit. I can request if I suspect that there is...
Have you?
No, I have not.
Even now for the PKTT, after it has been all over the news, you haven't requested, at least I would have thought you would even go to the AG and say, AG, please, here's this document, please audit. I'm going to the ad hoc committee and probably to the commission.
I think in October, I would, in October I had, when I was hearing all these indications in terms of the PKTT and expenditures, I then appointed a brigadier to conduct a determination for me, so that I also have an understanding as to what is going on in this regard.
Okay.
The brigadier,
I'm going to cut you off, and I'm not being rude. I just wanted to know whether you went to the Auditor General rather than to do it internally.
No. Not the Auditor General. I just wanted
But do you have access to be able to do that also with the Medicare 2024? Because from what I understand, it's the audit process, you are doing it internally, the forensic audit.
Yes, the Auditor General has already looked into the Medicare 24.
Forensically, or it was just part of the overall?
It was part of the normal audit.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes,
so it wasn't audited by the Auditor General. Would you consider having that done independently, both for the PKTT, specifically since we have both an ad hoc committee and a commission set up? Would you consider approaching the Auditor General to audit this, also in line of not just the financial spending, but also the impact?
It's not a problem. If such a need arises, we could do that. I spoke earlier about the issue of the impact assessment, that we have already tasked our research unit to then conduct the impact assessment, but it will not be harm if we could request an independent assessment of such processes.
Okay. So you don't see a need at the moment?
At the moment, as I indicated, I had already identified an experienced official to do an assessment.
No, I'm saying outside of internally. I'm saying externally. You don't see the need at the moment to approach the Auditor General to do a forensic audit on both the Medicare 24 and the PKTT?
The Medicare 24, there is already a forensic investigation. The PKTT...
But it's not the AG.
Yeah, it's not the AG,
Yeah, okay.
but it is our forensic. We do have capacity in terms of our own forensic audit, and they do collaborate with AGSA where there is a need for them to collaborate. So the outcome of this particular report will then determine if there is a need for us to even go further in this regard. But we believe that the current investigation, because it's also running parallel with a criminal investigation, will be sufficient to unearth whatever gaps that would have happened, and it will empower us to then take steps in this regard.
Thank you, CFO. Paragraph 14 to 16, we have the breakdown and expenditure comparisons between the PKTT and a few other task teams. So would you agree that the interventions, such as the stabilization operations, there was the gang interventions, major deployments, the PKTT was actually not funded excessively in comparison with the others? Or did you just choose those ones because they were funded highly?
No, it was not funded extensively.
Okay.
We tried to compare apples with apples. When we look at this, it's within the same range.
So your concerns about so when you kept raising your concerns on the information notes when the request came in for the funding, Was it on the amount of money that was spent, or was it more in relation to the time? Because we were now, the period that the team was going on, we were going on to 5 years now. What was your concern?
My concern was that clearly this task team was established to deal with it was a temporary task team. It was established to deal with a specific problem, but this problem is not going away. It is not. Actually, it might even be bigger than we realize. Now, for us to be able to support this team, let's have a permanent team. And if you have it as a permanent standalone team, then you are able to resource it properly and you are able to budget for it properly, as opposed to not knowing whether it will exist in the next 3 months or not. So it was from a budget point of view in this regard. However, over the years, we have had fiscal challenges where we have seen our operational budget being reduced in this regard. So these are general concerns that one would raise in all areas of operations in the police, including these task teams, where you have cost containment measures or policies that are approved by the accounting officer, and everyone is expected to then comply to those cost containment policies to ensure that we prevent overspending or unauthorized expenditure to incur in the department. So these are not unusual. We always raise this to ensure that everyone accounts to the resources that are given to them, and we are able to account to taxpayers' monies.
Why do you think after 5 years the team wasn't set up to be permanent? What, in your opinion, why do you think the National Commissioner didn't move in that direction?
Perhaps the National Commissioner will be in a best position to respond to that. There is operational work and decisions that would have been taken as and when they evaluate from time to time, and they would have come to a conclusion to say this team must continue. So those perhaps in the operational space could shed more light in this particular regard. The concerns I raised was mainly from a budget point of view, because it then makes it a bit challenging if you operate a team in this particular model. But I believe there was work that was to be done, and decisions and evaluations and agreements would have been taken at operational level, having considered those issues, perhaps the intelligence issues from the project leader and so on and so on. So the National Commissioner, as well as the project leader and the head of operations, would perhaps be in a best position to can elaborate further in this regard.
Okay. And then just quickly, you speak about a work study report that you would have liked to be done. Do you know that there was another work study report that the minister was influenced by, the 2019 work study report that he said he used as one of the reasons for disbanding the PKTT? Are you aware of that work study report?
I'm aware of that work study report, and I believe I had signed or made comments within that work study report, and it was talking about enhancing capacity in terms of detective units and so on and so on. I'm aware of that report.
So why did you want another one? Was that one not efficient?
This one, for me, it was in particular on issues that are dealing with political killings in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
So clearly there is a problem that is not going away. From a budget point of view, I can't be receiving applications every 2 months, every 3 months. Then it means we are not resourcing this team properly. In terms of decisions to say this work of the PKT team must then find expression in some units, that is the decision that is not taken by me. It is taken by the heads of crime detection. In this regard, it might be the Deputy National Commissioner working together with his management, and those decisions would then be taken by the National Commissioner in this regard. What I needed was stability for this team and to ensure that resources are given and there is accountability should those resources be not utilized effectively.
So in your view, the 2019 work study report that the minister used as one of his reasons to disband was inefficient to deal with the issue of political killings task team in particular?
Perhaps that the decision to then implement that work study would have been a decision that the minister would have discussed with the National Commission.
Okay. quickly, and on one of my favorite matters, we had Lieutenant General Fani here, and he explained in detail, SAPS procurement, which was a blow to an average South African's head's minds. But SAPS outsources. You even outsource toilet paper. Like you outsource toilet paper. So in your experience as a CFO, and it's vast, do you agree that there's an over-reliant on outsourcing? And this is, number one, it leads to higher costs. Number two, we are sitting here because of tenders. It either leads to corruption, and then corruption obviously leads to murders. So given your experience, what in SAPS can be insourced and we should be able to build capacity? We are spending ridiculous amounts of money, even starting with this Medicare 24. That is the permanent, it's a core service of SAPS. In your opinion, as the CFO, how much money would we be able to save? I know we're putting you on the spot here, but if we were able to build capacity of SAPS just to be able to provide that, we probably wouldn't even be sitting here today, and we wouldn't have someone sitting in prison and sitting here if this thing of tenders.
Building capacity in terms of issues of insourcing requires massive undertaking from a fiscal point of view, from hiring personnel that are capable of carrying out those activities. I believe strategies are there to be reviewed. If you have employed a specific strategy and it's not working out for you, as an accounting officer or executive management, there is nothing stopping you from time to time pausing and interrogating why is it that this particular model or strategy is not working for me, and taking different decisions. We have insourced before, our securities are insourced, our cleaners are insourced, and previously they were run in terms of contracts. So it is possible as organizations and institutions from time to sit and pause. And in particular, linking all this to risk management and efficiencies in the processes. But it requires the will, it requires resources in this particular area, and capabilities that will then be in a position to can run with that you want to insource. As I indicate, insourcing has taken place before. We are insourcing our securities as well as our cleaners.
So all your security is insourced?
Yes.
Since when? Or has it always been that way?
It was outsourced prior to my arrival. I can't exactly remember the date when this insourcing did take place, but they are insourced.
So all the police stations, not just headquarters, all the police stations,
Yes.
it's all insourced. Cleaners?
Yes.
Oh, well done, SAPS. But can we also insource Medicare 2024? And toilet paper.
It is a conversation that perhaps the organization must begin to sit around the table and engage in this particular conversation. I would certainly participate in such a conversation.
Yeah, we need an EFF government for that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Matthias Bangazita.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good afternoon, Lieutenant General. I don't have a lot of questions, but I just want to know where you got that money from to actually continue to fund the operations of the PKTT over a period of time when it was not budgeted for.
As I had indicated, after we receive our allocation from National Treasury, we embark on a massive process where we then apportion this allocation to cost centers. We do have a National Operation Coordination Center where we will allocate funding for various interventions in this regard. Within these financial constraints, then you embark on a reprioritization exercise. You will then look at the areas where you can save and ensure that there is money to support operations. So it is a continuous exercise that you do. You allocate, you identify priorities, operational priorities, you engage with the accounting officer, and you are able to can then support this. But of course, that means other priorities have to, because you do have competing priorities, you will then have other priorities at the back foot in this particular regard. So it is an exercise that we embark upon to ensure that the or the money that we have, we extend it to ensure that we do our work and we are able to support all the priorities as would have been approved.
Thank you, General. You consistently raised your concerns to the National Commissioner about the expenditure patterns of the PKTT, but you are conspicuously silent about other operations, special teams such as the illicit mining, which over a period of 2.5 years had actually, spent more than R1 billion. Why is that?
I raise concerns on almost all these interventions. You will see that on my annexures, there would be submissions made to the accounting officer where all these interventions would have been assessed in this regard. So for the purposes of this testimony, I was requested to focus on the PKTT. The illicit mining is a newly established intervention, as I indicated, and we appreciate that the CARA committee was able to approve these funds for us to be able to can intervene in provinces that are battling with this particular issue. So this is special funding that was earmarked and allocated from CARA funding to say, US law enforcement go and deal with issues of illicit mining in this particular regard. So this money is specifically for that. It is allocated for that, and we expect that it is managed and there is accountability in this regard. So it's earmarked for that particular specific operation, because when we applied, we said, CARA committee, we want to have interventions that will then assist us as law enforcement to deal with this problem that is troubling us across provinces. So approval was granted to say this funding is specific for this particular operation. If you want to depart and take this money, utilize it somewhere, you must go back to CARA committee to explain and to get approval in this regard.
Thank you, General. In your interaction with the National Commissioner over the budgetary issues as they affect the PKTT, you actually had always recommended that the PKTT should be deactivated. That's the word you used.
Not always, Chair.
But there are a number of times.
It's only once, Chair.
In your statement.
It's only once.
Okay, but you had actually called for the deactivation of the PKTT. And my concern is that somewhere in paragraph 13.14 of your evidence, you are actually saying that when I made these comments, the comments that we have just been talking about, I was not briefed, nor was I aware of the work of the PKTT. How would you call for the deactivation of something whose work you are not familiar with?
In other provinces, Chair, the context that I want to give is that my comments were saying deactivate a temporary structure, put together a permanent structure, give it to General Mkhwanazi in KZN, because it was, my understanding was that it was established to deal with the problems in KZN. It has since emerged that it is then, the scope has been extended. In those operational decisions, I am normally not called. It will be operational decisions where the project leader briefs the National Commissioner and those that are supposed to be briefed. So decisions will be taken to say this particular work of the PKTT extends beyond KwaZulu-Natal. They are now in other provinces. So where we differed with the National Commissioner was saying, this team cannot be localized in KwaZulu-Natal. Clearly, he knew the decisions that they had taken. Clearly, he knew the operational work that this team is dealing with in terms of the expansion of the scope. Those are the discussions that normally I would not be invited to such operational meetings, but I take cue and guidance from the meeting office. I will make comments from a budget point of view and a planning point of view, but the operational decisions are the National Commissioner. I can't instruct the National Commissioner to say, close this team. It is not my decision. So clearly he knew that the work this team is doing well and the work goes beyond KwaZulu-Natal. This is why it cannot be localized in KwaZulu-Natal. So the ultimate decision maker is the National Commissioner. That is why when I raise concerns with the relevant managers, they will go back, they will convene themselves through the National Crime Combating Forum, evaluate this. They will sit and evaluate and take decisions and go and approach the National Commissioner to say, we have evaluated this. We believe that the crime threat still exists and this team must continue. And the National Commissioner will agree. They will put together a request for additional funding, which will come to me, and we will then interact with the National Commissioner and support the efforts in terms of crime fighting.
General, one of the reasons advanced by the minister when he was here, or even in his directive to disband the PKTT, was that it was a financial drain, which has caused a lot of pressure on the budget. And a point which was supported by even Mary Haas, that this task team had actually outlived its usefulness, and therefore it must be disbanded. So I was just wondering that in the context of your continued, concern about its spending pattern,
It was not
what was your reaction when you heard on the 2nd of January that indeed it had actually been disbanded?
I want to put it on record that that concern was not continued. The comment was made once, and I had reasons, and I've explained the reasons throughout this testimony in terms of what was my reasoning for that. It was once. In terms of the testimony of the minister, I can confirm that the minister has never asked me about the PKTT budget, nor have he ever requested that I provide reports and analysis in terms of the task teams. Those are the conversations that I have with the National Commissioner as I report to the National Commissioner.
Of your statement, General, you are actually saying that you never had any interaction with the minister about the financial issues relating to the PKTT. Then I wonder where he got the information from to base his decision to actually disband, if it was not from the CFO of the organization.
I cannot vouch for that, Chair.
I'm not saying that it would have been wrong for you to share that information with the minister. I mean, the minister is a minister of the department. But you categorically actually said that you have never shared that information.
On the PKTT.
Thank you. Okay. When General Sbiya was here, he told us that Mr. Matlala is very familiar in the corridors of the SAPS, echelons there. Do you know, have you ever met Mr. Matlala?
I have never met Mr. Matlala. I do not know Mr. Matlala.
General Sbiya also went on to tell us that Mr. Matlala actually came to visit him in his office in the company of his lawyer to complain about the non-payment that was outstanding from SAPS. And I imagine that would actually be a matter that needed the attention of the CFO. Did you not meet Mr. Matlala on that particular day?
No, Chair.
Okay. Well, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. That's all I had for the General. Thank you, General.
Thank you.
Honorable Malemo.
Just a quick follow-up, Chair, on the insourcing of security, because the CFO must remember she's under oath. She just answered that she has insourced all the securities everywhere, not only at office and cleaners. I just wanted to be sure about that because it doesn't look like that is the case.
I'm not aware of any tender or any project that has been undertaken by the department in relation to security services. I'm not aware. I'm aware that I do have securities that are on my payroll.
But I'm told that the KZN building, provincial office, is looked after by private security.
By?
Private security.
I'm not aware of that.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Sols.
Thank you, Chair. Am I audible? Am I audible? Can you hear me, Chair?
I can hear you now. I don't know if the witness is hearing you.
Should I change? Oh, that's better.
Are you hearing Honorable Sols, General Timpan? Can you hear him?
It's very soft, Chair.
Very soft. Should I change seats with Honorable?
You can come and sit here.
No. I'm too small for that seat, Chair.
The last person who sat next to me was Miss Meriti Haas.
Is this better, General?
It is better, Chair.
Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon.
General, the testimony of Minister Mkhunu, in his testimony he claimed that the PKTT has shown budget inefficiencies and rising costs. And for this reason, that was one of the reasons why he called for disbandment. Do you agree with him?
I have not discussed the budget of the PKTT with the Minister as the CFO.
But based on your knowledge of the cost implications, do you agree with him?
As we had indicated on Annexure B and a comparison that we had made, these are the normal operational costs that interventions as well as task teams will incur in this regard to deal with crime patterns as well as crime threats that would have been identified by the National Commissioner working together with his operational teams. So these are the costs that we normally spend. However, it does not necessarily mean that if there is a task team that is established and funding is available, then there shouldn't be systems in place to ensure that there are efficiencies as well as cost control or cost containment in this particular regard. But when you look at other task teams there, depending on the decisions that would have been taken, whether to demobilize or to reduce the number of personnel that will have been deployed, these are some of the normal costs that we normally incur. And I take cue from the National Commissioner together with his operational teams, because they are the ones who are responsible to ensure that they prevent and combat crime in this country. If they sit in their operational meetings and they evaluate and they come to a
Sorry,
conclusion.
General, sorry. Just because the time is very short, does what you just explained does it mean you agree or you disagree with the minister?
I would not know how the minister would have come to that conclusion without a report or an indication being made to him.
Well, he's making an allegation, and that's what we are testing here. He's making an allegation. You are the authority on saying whether that allegation is true or not. So he says the PKTT has shown budget inefficiencies and rising costs. He made an allegation. Now I'm asking you to either confirm it or not. You are the authority there to say, no, minister is wrong. There's no budget inefficiencies there.
I cannot confirm because the decision, operational decisions are taken by the accounting officer, unless if he would have engaged the accounting officer.
So you don't have a position, you don't have a position of agreement or disagreement with the statement, no? Okay, let's look at your statement in paragraph 13.3. Let's see whether it is indeed true that you don't have such concerns. Paragraph 13.3, you say that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi made a submission that he signed for 58.5 million rand. And then you say, at the time, the DNC responsible for policing was General Masimola, who is now the National Commissioner. And he signed, and General, is it Tumani that signed and wrote the recommendation, but you then raised the concern to say that there was 2 signatures missing, but it was submitted to your office, and you raised the concern. Is that correct?
It's incorrect. I've never raised any concern about missing signatures.
You raised the concern here.
It's not a concern. I'm just articulating what was sitting on that submission.
Okay, so are you saying that that request did not require the signatures of...
It did. This is the record or the document that I do have.
So I'm asking you, if it did require, if the normal process is that those signatures are required, is that correct for them to do?
I did not raise any concern. The ultimate approval in terms of these expenses was done by the National Commissioner. From time to time, the operational environment, they evaluate these interventions, and they then are requested to put together either requests for funding or reports, progress reports to the National Commissioner. So
Okay.
I did not raise any concern in terms of this. It's just a document that I'm indicating that where this matter comes from, because for the purposes of testimony, I was to focus on PKTT. So I'm outlining the order of events in terms of what happened, when, who said what.
All right,
But
so it
I'm
wasn't
not
wrong
raising-
for them to do that. It wasn't wrong.
There would have been reasons why those signatures
Was
were
it wrong?
outstanding, but the ultimate approval was made by the National
Was it
Commission.
wrong to submit to you without signatures or not?
Documents must be signed by everyone.
So it was wrong.
For me, this is not raised as a concern.
It's fine,
I
but
need
was it
the-
wrong? Now that it's here, I'm asking you what's before me. Was it wrong?
Other signatures should have been found.
So it was wrong.
In terms of this document, if you put it that way, however, I want to emphasize that the allocation of funding to PKTT is approved by the accounting officer. Ultimately, the final allocation was approved by the accounting officer.
Okay.
So this is not raised as a concern.
Okay.
It is just explaining the order of events and
Okay.
where this PKTT comes from and the work that has been done and the discussions and
Okay.
the reports and a lot of documents that have gone
Thank you, General. Let's-
on in this regard.
Let's move on to your letter dated the 29th of September, 2020. Page 73. Page 73.
Yes.
Paragraph 3, are you there?
13.7.
Well, I'm looking at your annexure bundle, page 73.
73.
Hey, Chair, you must pause the clock.
Next, Chair, 73, I'm there.
Are you there?
I am, Chair.
Okay. As section 3.
Yes.
Would you agree that here you are raising concern?
Yes.
You are?
It was a letter that was addressed to the relevant line
Okay,
managers.
but you are raising a
Yes,
concern.
I am
All right.
raising concerns.
I just wanted to confirm so that we don't dispute on that. Let's deal with what your concern was. Number one, you say overtime expenditure in the 2020-21 financial year is not visible against the project code. ORS should correct such for transparency purposes.
Yes.
So it was wrong.
When projects and initiatives are put in place for purposes of reporting and transparency, I indicated that we create a project code and we expect all managers to then vest expenditure against that project code.
Yes.
Yes, they were wrong that for that particular period in terms of expenditure, that was not vested against that project code. So from a monitoring point of view and accountability, I could not see such. So I'm putting it to their attention so that they correct.
You've done well. I agree with you.
And they did correct such.
I agree with you. You've
Yes.
done very well to raise that concern, to say this is a budgetary inefficiency,
Yes.
right? And that's what you're saying to them. That's what the minister has said in his testimony. Then you go further and you say overtime claims of most individuals deployed for the project depicted that 100 hours of overtime was worked for most months. Then you say even during lockdown, when movement restrictions were enforced in April and May, these individuals continued to work 100 hours of overtime.
Yes.
And then you also express concern that the overtime amount is high and it is adding to the pressure of the limited funding that's available to SAPS.
Yes, I raised those concerns with the Deputy National Commissioner.
You've done
This
very
whole
well.
policy.
You've done extremely well. And this now corroborates the allegation of rising costs.
But I did not write this letter to the minister.
That's
It
good.
was a letter that was written to the Deputy National Commissioner. These are the normal concerns that as CFO, when you monitor expenditure patterns, you will then
General,
deal
would you
with these
agree
particular issues.
that the letter doesn't have to be written to the minister for the allegation to be true? The allegation is true that the PKTT, based on your testimony,
I have not been called to present
you are
such
testifying today.
to the minister.
Well, you're testifying to us now, and your testimony is agreeing with the position of the minister.
I have not been called by the minister to present this
We're
analysis.
calling you, and in front of us, what you've given to us agrees with the minister.
I
Whether
do
the
not
min-
know where would the minister have gotten a brief.
It doesn't matter. I also don't know. What I know is the testimony of the minister and your testimony on the fact that the PKTT, there's budget inefficiencies and there is rising cost. Both of you are saying the same thing.
Chair, on my testimony, I've said these are normal concerns that we raise with the relevant managers, including the National Commissioner. They go back, they regroup, they then consider this and they ensure that they assist us with efficiencies as well as cost containment. Together with the analysis of crime patterns and the situations that they're trying to sort out, then decisions, operational decisions are taken. And we get requests for funding, having taken those decisions by the accounting officer together with the relevant operatives, the accounting officer approves. It does not necessarily mean that when I raise this, they are not taken into account. If you look at other interventions, you will see a decline in terms of costs. It then tells you that managers would have evaluated and decided to say, here we have stabilized, the crime threat is no longer visible, let us reduce the deployment in this particular regard. So these are normal decisions and conversations that take place in an organization, and the accounting officer accounts and is the ultimate approval in this particular regard. There would be progress reports that are compiled by the NCCF or the relevant project managers to the National Commissioner to say, yes, we hear the concerns. However, the work that we are doing, the situation that we are dealing with requires that we maintain these numbers, or requires us, we are satisfied that we have stabilized, we are hereby then sort of reducing the number of deployments. So these are normal things that we do as the police as we continue to do our work. But as CFO, it is my responsibility to monitor and raise these particular issues. It doesn't mean that when I raise them, then task teams must be closed. Doesn't mean that. And the closure of the task teams is not my decision. As I indicated, it's a decision of the National Commissioner, having considered that we wanted to deal with has been dealt with. I raise concerns every day on everything, not only on operations. We have cost containment policies that we have approved, that we expect each and every manager to assist us, that the resources that we have, as limited as they are, we are able to utilize them to ensure that we combat crime in this country and ensure that the people of this country are safe. It is my job.
But based on your professional opinion, you do testify today that what you've put before us is concerns of budgetary inefficiencies and rising costs, correct?
I've raised these concerns with the relevant line manager.
Is that answer yes?
I've raised these concerns, yes, with the relevant line manager.
All right. You say that you haven't spoken to the minister
About the PKTT.
but you had an opportunity to. In July 2024,
5 meetings to be precise.
but in July 2024, you did a presentation to him,
Yes.
correct?
It was July, it was August, we had September, we also had June this year.
Did you raise the issue of the PKTT with him?
No,
Could you have done so?
if I was requested.
Sorry?
I would have been requested to do so.
So he needed to request for you to talk about
When
it.
we are
Whereas,
when
what was
we-
the purpose of the presentation?
When we are called to go and orientate the executive authority, we don't go there on our own. It will be a meeting that is coordinated by ministry through the Office of the National Commissioner, and you will be told that we are having a meeting with the executive authority and this is the purpose of the meeting, and you ought to prepare a report in terms of these requirements. That is why we indicated that in the first report, it was an introductory briefing to the minister. In the second report, it was financial matters pertaining to the police, because the minister was new. We needed to orientate him. In the second briefing, then as and when you report, he will identify other indicators that he would want further information on. Issues, concerns such as issues that civil claims, issues of...
Did he ask you to tell him that crime intelligence needs capacity?
Yes.
He asked you to tell you that?
In the
He
meet-
asked you to tell you that? You
Sorry?
prepared the presentation.
Sorry?
In your presentation, you then go in detail in saying that crime intelligence needs to be capacitated.
As I indicated...
Now I'm asking you, based on that, in your presentation, did the minister, prior to you presenting, ask you to present on crime intelligence?
You would go and present, Chair.
Yes.
As and when you present...
So he
there are-
didn't ask you?
May I be allowed to conclude?
It's just because of my time, General.
You will be given indicators to say, we will have to have a follow-up meeting. These are the following indicators. I want you to touch on issues that talks to capacity.
General Dumpana, you stop speaking. May we please take Honorable James.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, General.
Chair, have you forgotten?
Yeah, before Honorable James, I've noted Honorable Nomvalo for follow-up.
Yes. No, a follow-up question on Honorable James's first question. Well, on Honorable Saul's, my apologies. No, the response, the question was to the CFO was whether she agrees or not with the concern of the minister, the budgetary concern. And the response was that, she doesn't know where the minister took that from, and she can't say she agrees or she doesn't with the minister. Now the question is, CFO, are you in terms of the statutory obligation, you are the custodian of the financial affairs of SAPS, correct?
I'm appointed to assist the accounting officer to execute his responsibilities.
No, in relation to financial issues.
Yes.
You are the custodian. So if I can come and say SAPS in its account as 100 rand, you have a responsibility because we are in a better position to give clarity in that regard, correct?
Yes.
You can say Nomvalo is lying, we don't have 100 rand in our account, we have this amount, these are the records. Now also, it's peculiar for you. I find it peculiar and imprudent and evasive that you can, like you are just an ordinary person, say you are not in a position to either agree or disagree with the minister because you know better than all South Africans the financial position, the financial position of SAPS. So for you to say you can't agree or disagree with the minister, I think that is being dismissive and evasive.
Chair, it would have been easy if one would have been requested to make presentations and to engage in this particular regard. However, it is my view that between the minister and the national commissioner, there are continuous conversations. So one is not in a position to can talk on the issue of the PKTT to say what was in front of the minister at that point in time.
Not the PKTT, but the budgetary concern.
Honorable.
I didn't know I'm allocated.
Your time has expired.
I didn't know, you didn't tell me there's allocation of time.
It was up. It was not opportunistic.
No, but I'm not being opportunistic. I'm being inquisitive. What do you mean now? You are ridiculing my follow-up question. I'm being inquisitive. I'm not opportunistic.
Let's not debate it.
Please don't label my follow-up question like that, please. I'm taking offense on what you are doing.
The time to ask.
But don't label my question like that and say I'm opportunistic.
Yeah, no, listen to me, Honorable Nomvan. Your questions were follow-ups, yes. But once you go beyond the reasonable time, you are opportunistically using that moment to smuggle yourself into a time you do not have.
But you should have told me how much time is allocated for follow-ups.
That is not for debate, that is a convention in this.
But I'm quoting your ruling is wrong.
Look, your time has expired, honorable members. Let's not take it any further. Can we go to Honorable James?
Thank you so much, Chair. Afternoon, General. On page 21 of your statement, just excuse my voice.
Paragraph?
21.
Paragraph 20.
Page 21, paragraph 25.
Yes, Chair.
In relation to the work study report, you state there, I wish to state clearly that I have not given anyone permission to access the submission nor utilize it to their defense. I deem this as unauthorized and an abuse of a conversation that the CFO had with the accounting officer. What did you do about this?
I have,
Because this is a very serious statement that you hear.
I have not done anything about it. What I then tried to do was to say, perhaps we must, because this was also on the media, and you will see on the media that the entire comment is not there. It's only the comment that talks about deactivation. So I had requested communication that perhaps we need to correct this as advice to say, you know, let's allow the commission as well as the committee to do its work, because it will not be prudent that every time something is out there in the media, we issue a statement and so on and so on. But I have not done anything to say, let me report this. But for me, it would have been best that those that wanted to use this, at least they ask me, what did I mean in this regard? But I have not done anything.
General, you spoke very passionately about this earlier on.
Yes.
In your statement here, when you said, I have not given anyone permission to access it, that in my mind tells me that people stole from your office, that people stole a document and used it without your permission. That means in your office there's a risk when it comes to accessing documents.
No, Chair.
And you have done nothing about it.
No, Chair. This document is not sitting in my office. It is an application from the project leader. It goes through the stages, as I indicated earlier, up until the approving authority approves, which is the National Commission, and then it goes back to its origin or to the author. What I do have a copy. So there's a likelihood that it is at NOCC or it is where it originated. So I am not the custodian of this particular document. What was just strange for me was that the document is used, and the comments that I have made, that I had only the conversation with the accounting officer, that without understanding the context of where I came from, people decided to utilize it. But I'm not the custodian. It goes back to the author of that submission. I remain with a copy.
Thank you. Are you saying that the minister came here and he misled this committee?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the document was utilized and I was not aware in terms of that, because if I was aware, I could have explained the context of this. I was not aware that it will be utilized by himself, including General Sibia.
General, Minister Beki appeared before the Parliament. He refuted the use of the word, the letter N for national, in reference to the national PKTT, which Minister Nkunu repeatedly emphasized. More importantly, to your knowledge, was the PKTT, the establishment, national or provincial? Because which one of the two ministers were lying? Was it Minister Beki or Minister Nkunu?
I've always known this team to be called PKTT. Though I had not participated in IMC meetings, but I've known it to be called PKTT.
All right, so you are saying that Minister Nkunu again misled this House?
I am not certain in terms of the NPKTT.
General, you said earlier on that people don't take accountability for their actions, and we need you to speak truth here today. I'm asking, did you think that the minister misled this House?
I do not participate in the IMC structures.
Can you conclude that part which you wanted to say before you answer the next question?
I have always known this team to be called the PKTT. I do not participate in the IMC structures and all those structures that the project leader together with the National Commissioner would be participating. For the purposes of my function, which is to confirm funding, I have always known this team to be called PKTT. I cannot confirm to say the minister misled. Perhaps such discussions did take place elsewhere, but I cannot vouch for such.
But General, you can confirm because you did the budget allocation.
To the PKTT?
Yes. So you can confirm whether it was provincial or national, because you did the budget allocation, and when I look at your budget allocation, it speaks to all the areas within KZN only. So why are you saying you cannot confirm?
What I indicated is that all operations are run from the National Operations Center. When interventions and task teams are put in place, that decision is taken by the National Commissioner to go and support a province. For the purposes of a PKTT, it was established to deal with the situation in KwaZulu-Natal. The issue to say it had then expanded its scope, that particular operational decision, I was not aware of. I do not participate in the IMC structures and all that, and these decisions are taken by the project leaders working together with the National Commissioner in this regard. The reason why I had said put together a permanent structure in KwaZulu-Natal, I was of the view that this team is supporting KwaZulu-Natal, but the money that is utilized is not the baseline of KwaZulu-Natal. It is money that would have been put together from national in addition to supporting the work that is taking place in KwaZulu-Natal. So whether the end then came into being, those would be best explained between the minister as well as the National Commission. I have always known it as a
General, I put it to you that only in the end, the National Commissioner had then said that the scope of the PKTT needs to extend to national. Am I correct?
Yes.
So in meaning initially that the work was not for national, it was for provincial, and you allocated that budget for provincial operations.
The PKTT, which
Yes,
was
for the
established
PKT, you allocated, you signed off the budget.
Yes.
So why are you saying that you're not sure if it was national or if it was provincial?
The Chair, the NPKTT, I'm saying I've known this team to be called PKTT.
General, I want to move to another area of concern relating to budget. The money set aside for informants is astronomical. And with my understanding of how the system works, I want to raise a few questions about the expenditure on informants, right? How was 3 million monitored in relation to cash disbursements to informants?
May I ask, Chair, which page is the member on?
Somewhere, and I didn't allocate that page. Never mind the amount for the sake of time. How do you monitor the cash payments of informants?
There are policies that exist in terms of within crime detections and those that utilizes this in terms of ensuring that these monies are accounted for. We do have policies in place. Of course, you will then have the other account, which is the service account that has its own processes. So there are policies in place and the relevant officials within crime detection, crime intelligence that then are supposed to ensure compliance to those policies.
General, I'm going to say to you, crime intelligence is stealing this money. There has been allegations of crime intelligence misusing this money for the longest time ever. I'm asking you, as the handler of the purse, you are allocating these budgets. How are you in your capacity ensuring that this money gets spent and on the right things and we have value for money? What do you have in your receipt? We know that there's policies for all of these things. I'm asking, what monitoring tools do you have in place to ensure that when you allocate 3 million for informants, 3 million was actually allocated and given to those informants?
Crime intelligence has 2 sets of budget, Chair. I have not had any complaints in terms of the open budget that I am responsible for. One has had complaints in terms of the Secret Service account, which has its own CFO and its own rules that is managing and governing that particular. But on the open budget, I have not had any complaints in terms of program for allocation.
General, do you rely on complaints to pick up misconduct and corruption? I'm asking you what monitoring tools you are assigning huge budgets. What monitoring tools do you have in place?
If there are complaints, it means the internal controls that we have in place are either inadequate and inefficient. We do have policies, we do have controls in place, we have sufficient safeguards. So the absence of complaints then tells you that your systems are adequate in this regard.
Let me ask it like this. What system exists to manage and track how much money is paid to whom and for what information?
In terms of crime intelligence secret service account, that I will not be in a position to respond. It has its own CFO and they account to different levels of structures in this particular area.
So you are passing this one on to the crime intelligence CFO? You are saying this is not under your mandate?
I'm not responsible for the secret service account.
You're not responsible for the secret service, even though you the...
I'm not, it has its own CFO.
Okay. General, task teams are generally immediate stabilization interventions, correct?
Yes.
You explained it nicely earlier on.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. What sort of justifies having a task team for 5 years?
As I indicated, the operational teams, together with the National Commissioner, continuously conduct crime threat patterns, crime pattern analysis, and they take decisions to stabilize and to support provinces or any areas that remain stubborn. Some of the areas sometimes remain stubborn and they require these interventions. For me, as I indicated, my knowledge of a task team is that it is established for a specific purpose, for a specific period. If it becomes a little bit longer, then it means it is dealing with a permanent problem. That is why then, from a resource point of view, one would have advised to say, why is it that we are not putting this as a permanent structure so that we can resource it properly? Obviously, the operatives would have then done their crime patterns and analysis and taken decisions in terms of what is prevailing on the ground and those challenges that they are dealing with. My understanding is that investigations do take time. Certain investigations and investigators will have dockets that will go to court and take years and so on, but the operational environments are the ones that takes the ultimate operational decisions based on what they would have analyzed and what is on the table and the intelligence that they might have.
I want to ask Operation Lockdown, Thunder, what has been the value for money for SAPS with this operation, which has shown blatant failures in the Western Capes? In fact, it has gotten worse, with a budget of almost 500 million being spent with little to show for it.
Earlier, during the day on my testimony, I indicated that is a question that I'm interested in. In SAPS, we do not have a model that assesses the value for money in terms of operations.
Sorry, General, you said that is a question you are interested in, meaning that you will continue to sign off on budgets without having a clear indication
No,
of
Chair.
whether the STARS team is being effective
Chair.
and whether there's value for money.
No, Chair. That is why we have tasked our research environment to, one, conduct an impact study on all these operations. And my understanding is that they are done with Valamgodi intervention as well as the lockdown. But that impact assessment report has not been presented to anyone. Over and above that, then they are developing a value for money model for us. And that is as a result of a task that came directly from myself and my team, because we want to ensure that the investment that we make in terms of these interventions yield the necessary results. So we are in the process of finalizing this. There is a commitment that before the end of March, the value for money model would have been given to us, because we need support from that. But indication is that it's not easy. A lot of variables have to be taken into account. A lot of stakeholders have to be consulted in this particular regard. So it is an area that we are working on. One is interested to ensure that then the SAPS has a model that we can utilize to assess all these interventions and ultimately be able to give comfort that these interventions are value for money.
General, 5 years of spending millions on various task teams. Had it not been for General Mkhwanazi's press state conference, would you have embarked on developing a practice that will be able to determine the impact of these task teams?
We requested it in 2024 in October.
In 2024, so prior to that, so every year for 5 years, you've been funding over 11 task teams.
I have written to the relevant managers. You will see in some of the attachments that I've made as part and parcel of the concerns to say they must determine whether the threats still exist, what is the impact, what is the value for money in this particular regard. As I indicated, they will convene the operatives and do evaluations and take operational decisions approved by the accounting officer. I have raised these particular issues. Now, we need a model, Chair, that we can utilize. We don't have that model. That is why we took the initiative in 2024 in October, prior to the press conference of July 6. We have already taken initiatives and we look forward to that particular model that we can implement across the country to ensure that we are in a position to can assess and monitor this. Of course, the work of the police overall is measured in terms of the decline in crime trends. You will see the release of crime statistics, the work that the police continued to do, and the inroads that they continue to make in this regard. But that model, we're looking forward to it. It will assist the department to ensure that all these investments that we have made, we are able to give comfort that it is yielding the desired results.
General, how far is that model and when is its due date to be rolled out?
The head research has given a commitment that before the end of this financial year, that model will be ready.
Thank you, Chair.
Have you stopped speaking, General Timpan? This was our last speaker during this session.
It's me, Chair. I'm not the last, I'm the second last.
I'm saying during this session. This was our last speaker.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break now and come back after 15 minutes. Yes. We normally sit with a witness for a maximum of 3 hours, unless if there are time pressure. So it is 3 hours now. Let's give the witness time for a stretch break. We will come back at 15 minutes past, at 5 minutes past 5.
But Chair, are we going to make follow-up after the break? Thank you.
There is nobody who will be denied time to speak in this committee. You know, it's an established practice.